David, how many lights did you repair today?
That repair today, well, I had to repair the same light several times. So anyway, it's probably about, a couple thousand lights I had to repair. New York is even line just like
Today?
today. First part working.
Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing?
Video you.
Oh, the documentary has happened. It's begun. I've already shot a lot of film with people.
I'd like to talk a little bit about obsession. And there is one person I live with who is obsessed. And you could meet him, but perhaps it would be very, very devastating because you would not meet him because he would be outside working on Christmas lights.
We moved into our neighborhood, Rushing Meadow Estates, nearly a decade ago. And as soon as we signed the contract on our house and told our friends, several of them said, that's by the Christmas lights house, right? We didn't know. But they explained one of the houses in our neighborhood put up hundreds of thousands of lights each season, and that it was crazy. Once the Christmas season came, my family and I were blown away. We'd never seen anything like it. Our neighborhood is special, almost like having family living in the houses around you. People care so deeply for each other, laugh together, cry together, squabble together, drink together. Yep, it's a special bunch, to be sure. So during the many happy hours, birthday parties, funerals, pickleball matches, and parties, I began to learn a bit more each year about the legend of David's Christmas lights. Some said he did it for his mom. Some said he did it for Alzheimer's. Some said he was simply obsessed. Some said it was therapy, and others, they said it was an act of love. So I decided to find out for myself. Why would someone spend hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars each year to put up Christmas lights? What would drive such a thing? Obsession? Therapy? Sacrifice? Habit? Love? It seems as though each of these may play a part. But what I discovered, as I have found in so many things of life, is that there are no simple answers. But what I can tell you is this. When we bought the house, we ended up with so much more than just a house. What we found, quite by happenstance, was a magical neighborhood full of amazing people with beautiful hearts. And sitting at the nexus, David and Peggy Cooley's.
I bought this coat at the place y'all told me about, that half of half down there.
Michelle told you that.
And I got this
I
over
love.
$10.
Oh, dude!
Yeah, see?
$10.
Come on, put it over here though. I couldn't see it on the camera. Put it. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, that's awesome. Santa canes. That's the best.
It's a good coat for $10.
Well, let's talk about Christmas lights.
All right, sounds good.
So, you guys, you started Christmas lights before you moved here.
Right.
Right.
We got married in 77. We moved into our first house in 1980 in Central Arlington on the corner of Lover's Lane and Mockingbird, even though it was in Central Arlington.
Yeah.
And so at that house, that was the first Christmas that we were there. Of course, I was making a lot less money at that time. And so after each paycheck, I'd figure out how much money I could afford to buy Christmas lights with. And I'd go down to the Skaggs Alpha Beta. They're on Cooper and Pioneer Parkway, and buy 100 light strands of incandescent white lights. By the end of that Christmas season, I had enough money to buy 2,500 lights.
Okay, so you did not, in your mind though, you hadn't thought, well, I don't have Christmas lights growing up. When I get older, I'm going to put up Christmas lights. It's none of that.
I don't remember having that in my mind at all. I don't remember what started other than I'm a homeowner and it'd be a good idea to put out some Christmas lights. And then lights have always, it's the therapy of lights make you happy. Lights in the winter make you happy. It just, takes away the darkness.
Also, people complimented them, and so that just made you want to put more lights out.
1980, you put out the first year. And then what year did you move here again?
Moved here in 90, so we were there from
10 years
1980
you
to
did that.
1989.
Tell me how it grew on your lover's house.
Well, I don't know exactly the number of lights we had each year, but the year that we left, 1989, we had about 25,000 lights.
And for the record, that's as many lights as Clark Griswold hung in Christmas Vacation. And they made a movie about that dude. I think that confirms David's obsession.
I think I have around 500,000 lights this year.
Yeah.
But the first year we were here, we had 39,000 lights, so that was in 1990. And then I know in 1998, I think we had about 125,000 lights, because that's when Fox 4 came out and did a TV deal about us because we had an Alzheimer's fundraiser.
You're watching Fox 4 News, the news station. Oh, each night, thousands of us cruise around now in our cars looking at holiday decorations.
It is beautiful this time of year, but this house in Arlington has a fabulous display. But Fox 4 Saul Garza joins us from Dalworthington Gardens to explain what it's all about. Hi, Saul.
Oh, good evening, guys. We just hate to have this electric bill, but I tell you what, it really is quite an amazing sight here. This is a winter wonderland of white lights, but we want to go back and show you that spectacular view from our eagle-eye camera. As you can see, those thousands of lights shining in this neighborhood. It's like a mini airport, somebody said. But really, tonight, it was an open house, a fundraiser, and an awareness campaign, an effort to light the way to a cure for Alzheimer's.
David Coolidge is the man with a giant electric bill. He starts this project the first week of October. 135 hours later, with the help of a cherry picker, his home is completely wired.
I've got over a mile's worth of extension cords. We figured out actually counting the light string, I think we have 50,000 feet worth of light strings and about 1,300 strings of lights.
Then in the early 2000s, we were in the 200,000, and then around 2010, I think we got over 300,000, and then by late 2018, 19 or so, we got over 300,000 to 400,000, and then in the past couple of years, I think we were around 500,000. For the past couple of years, I started doing some of the trees branch by branch. So the tree out in front of the house, which we call the Steve tree, which we named in honor of Steve McCown.
So Steve, it was your friend?
Steve McCown was a friend that I knew in college who was in my fraternity ATO, and then he was here in Arlington as well, and he retired a few years ago, but he was really a great guy. Could speak, Spanish fluently, was just had a photographic memory, and he's married to Donna, and they have two kids. They're really close friends with our kids. And a couple of years ago, he got cancer, and it took him in like 6 months. And so it was right in
2020.
In 2020. And so I dedicated, it was right about Christmas when he died, I think.
It was November.
So anyway, I dedicated this tree that I put like 9,000 lights on, which is a redwood tree, and I dedicated that tree to Steve. And so it's Steve's tree, and his family comes by every year and takes pictures of it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm gonna get
sorry
a little.
for your loss.
I'm gonna get a little plaque made on it because Steve was like my brother. He was a mission trip guy with me. We've been going to Mexico together for years, and he was like a brother to me. We both had the spiritual gift of being easily irritated. Anyway, I'm thinking about getting a little plaque to put on that tree that has the scripture verse about a friend sticking closer than a brother. Because I thought that would be really
That would be
good way to
beautiful.
Right commemorate that.
If you had to estimate how much you've spent over the years on total Christmas lights, electric, everything.
Let me guess.
I mean, that's why I'm saying, put it into perspective.
I'm gonna guess.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna guess $90,000.
I would say it'd probably be more than that. Generally, what I tell people is that it costs about 10 to 15 times in electricity what the bill would normally be in December if I didn't have all these lights. So
10 to 15 times.
If I calculate the hours that I have in it to get it from September through the Sunday after Thanksgiving, it's about 300 hours.
Okay, that's a lot. And and then what about your helpers?
Well, I'm guessing now that they probably had 50 hours maybe.
So I wanted to find out what Peggy really thinks about all of this.
Put out any of the outside lights, right?
No, I do not.
Why? Well, tell me about that.
It's just not my job. Well, first of all, I would not like doing it.
Yeah.
And I think it would be so boring to do it. And then I probably wouldn't do it correctly.
Think about that with David.
And so it's just not my hobby.
The real question is, how long does it take to take them all down?
You get them down a lot quicker than you put them up. I mean,
Sure.
last year, for example, when I got the cherry picker, I did it over a holiday weekend and basically got all the lights out of the trees, all the neighbors' trees, over 3 days.
And then you take it all down, and when do you do that?
Well, the goal is to get it all down by mid-February. And so, but I'm not on a specific schedule because, when you're putting it up, no matter what the weather is, you got to get them up.
Yeah.
When you take them down, if I'm looking at the weekend and it's going to be freezing cold and the wind blowing
Right.
90 miles an hour, well, then I'll say, no, I'm not going to do it this weekend. I'll wait till the next weekend. But anyway, so I think last year we actually got them all down and up in the attic by the end of January. So
let's talk about how David gets this enormous task accomplished each year. And what better place to start than the cherry picker, which seems to serve as a form of utility, entertainment, and therapy.
Now we're talking about how fun it was when the kids were little and David used to give them rides in the cherry picker.
He used to take all the kids in the neighborhood up when Coco and them were younger and the Briggs girls were younger. He would take all the kids up in the cherry picker, and they loved that.
He took me up once.
He did.
That's all I needed.
Has David taken you guys up in the cherry picker? Yeah. What do you think of that? Did you like that?
It was awesome. I'm scared of heights, so it's a little scary when I like it. I think it's awesome, but I'm kind of scared because last year he got stuck up in the cherry picker, so now I'm a little scared that I'm gonna get stuck.
If I'm being honest, I have never been afraid in an amusement park or in therapy, but I was terrified in my one and only trip in the cherry picker with David. That day was my introduction to the fear of heights. Luckily, the only one who ever faced any real trouble in the cherry picker was David himself. And at least one of the times he got stuck, it provided a little entertainment for Peggy and the neighbors.
Talk about the breakdowns and you getting caught up there.
Well,
there's one famous one.
Well, of course, the worst breakdown was last year when I was in the yard, the Morris's yard, and I was taking pictures. I actually wasn't putting up lights, but I went up 60 feet in the air to take pictures of the lights, and then the hydraulic hose, one of the hydraulic hoses burst and started spraying hydraulic fluid over everywhere, and I couldn't get it down. I got it down to about 25 feet from 60, but then it wouldn't go down any further than that. And then it started raining. All the neighbors eventually came out, and all the guys started.
We called Bud Durden. We figure if anybody can get it down, it's going to be Bud. You know? So he's there. Dick's there. Steve Pinka is there. Right. Judy Morris and I and John. Judy Morris and I were sitting on her porch just watching. We did send
You got lawn chairs, right?
Judy came out with lawn chairs, and then John came out with wine.
Yeah,
like we were just going to watch, and then they sent up an umbrella by a rope,
Right.
so he could have an umbrella.
But I was up there probably over an hour.
Yeah.
That just stuck, and they were able to maneuver it to where it got over their roof, and then I was able to climb out onto the roof, and they put some towels on the roof and stuff like that, and I was able to slide down on the roof and then get down on the ladder to get off.
Damn, David. You had a party up there by yourself.
Well, that was quite an experience. And then, of course, I also had an unfortunate situation in Tom's house when I actually started doing lights in his yard, or doing the lights in his trees. I had the cherry picker in his driveway, and it was dark. It was getting real dark, and I thought, okay, well, I'm about done, and so I was going to drive around his driveway rather than to back up.
Right.
And I couldn't see the fact that he had his John Deere little tractor trailer deal in front of the cherry picker, and I didn't see it. And so I just started off full blast to go around the corner, and I smashed into his John Deere little tractor trailer deal, like a lawnmower type of deal, and just messed it up to smithereens. And so I was so embarrassed that had happened, but he was very gracious about it and got it repaired.
Okay, truth be told, the breakdowns don't happen all that often. And on the bright side, they seem to provide entertainment and maybe a little therapy for David as he is sliding off of a neighbor's roof. So when did all this start? And how does David use this beautiful tool?
You know, I really don't remember the year, but I think it had to be in the 90s that I got it. Because I remember before that, I would take poles and try to throw the lights up on the trees. And of course, the trees kept getting bigger and bigger. When we have pictures of this house in 1990, those oak trees out front are barely taller than us. And so, so then it just, all the trees kept getting bigger. And for some reason, I figured out that I could do that. And we've had different sizes of cherry pickers. I think I started out with one that was 20 foot, then we went to the 40 foot, then now we're up to the 60 foot cherry pickers. So anyway, that's how
Peggy's excited that, there's pretty soon it'll be a crane instead because, the cherry pickers won't go up high.
Yeah, we might have to get an 80 footer. I don't know if they probably, I'm sure they make them probably. So.
I'm going to call them and tell them that you're not allowed to rent it.
But I've never had any disasters. The only time I've actually...
Don't say that.
Well, I'm not going to...
No, Peggy had the only disaster.
Yeah.
Disaster? So what's that all about? Were you around for the collapse of of his garage?
Yes.
What do you know about that?
The Christmas lights.
Yeah.
We obviously weren't there, didn't experience it firsthand. I just remember hearing that the garage collapsed because of the weight of all the Christmas lights, and felt terrible for them, but kind of giggled.
Whew! Glad that didn't turn out worse. Okay, David, any other accidents or close calls?
But I've never fallen out of the cherry picker, and I've fallen off a ladder before, but luckily I was not on concrete and over dirt, and so it didn't hurt me. So I didn't think it was like an 8-foot ladder, and I was leaning out, and the ladder went, and I went. But that was several years ago.
Okay, so what do the neighbors think about all of this? What's the feedback you get on what the lights mean to the neighbors? Wait, why the nervous laughter, David?
Well, I've kind of forced all the neighbors into this unwillingly. I mean, certainly when we started this, I was probably the only one who did any major lights whatsoever.
Force them into it? All right. We got to hear about this from the neighbors. Okay, well, what year did you guys move in here?
85.
Okay, so you're before the Christmas lights.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Moved here December 12th, 2008. We moved in and we didn't know anything about the lights.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Nobody, because we moved from Burleson.
You and Karen bought this house, and you bought it in retirement. It was just you two, right?
Right.
And they moved in, but then your granddaughter came and lived with you, at least one, right?
Two granddaughters.
Two granddaughters,
right.
Okay.
Moved
And
in.
did they like the lights
Oh,
too?
they loved it. I mean, they thought they were, in a fairyland when they moved in over here with us, and that's how it's felt for all of us. I mean, it's a special place to live, and we are so grateful to have found it and be welcomed like we have been in the neighborhood. We've been here, 15 years now, something like that, and it's just been amazing. And it's amazing. Christmas especially is amazing.
So when did you guys move into the neighborhood?
Mm-hmm. So it was 2007. So about 16 years ago.
July 1st of July 2007.
Jennifer.
Jennifer, tell me, you grew up here.
I did. I've grown up here since I was in the 5th grade.
Okay.
I lived in that house since 5th grade. But the Christmas lights have been just part of the magic of living down here.
Yeah.
Everybody gets into it and loves it, and we look forward to it every single year.
That's great.
And of course it's grown.
Yes.
Year after year.
It's kind of crazy now.
It is kind of crazy, but it's a good crazy. I mean,
It
that's
is.
what this neighborhood is about. Is a good crazy, and I like how. And for the longest time, it was really just Mr. Coolis.
Yeah.
So the whole neighborhood didn't really start participating until I can't remember when it all came together.
Yeah.
But
When we moved in here, he was already used. They were
cherry picker.
buying the cherry picker, and it's like crazy, and getting the lights up that are. There's no way you could get those that high without that. So.
It's for a good cause, and it definitely gives some good bragging rights to the neighborhood, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What were the Christmas lights pre?
There were none.
That's correct.
Nobody had any Christmas lights. There were none. I don't think we had some wreaths. I am a very simple person, and we're from the north.
Yes.
Which is a different mind thing. Just having a wreath, a simple wreath,
on the door or in the window and a candle. And that's kind of how things were, you know.
Yeah, beautiful.
And so it was kind of a shock.
Yeah. When David moved in,
Yeah.
first year he put up a lot of lights,
Not too much.
but not like today.
No, nothing like today.
Did you know about the Christmas lights ahead of time?
I don't think so.
No, I've lived in Arlington all my life and never really even heard about it. And then after we moved in, I think one of the neighbors, maybe a neighborhood party or something that summer, was saying, "Hey, this guy puts out some lights." I'm like, "Well, we put out a few lights too."
Yeah.
It's like, no. This guy puts out some lights. I was like, "Oh."
Well, when we saw it, he started putting them up in October.
It's like what? One thing that sticks out though, we had just moved in that summer in 2007. And the neighbor said, "Yeah, this guy puts out some lights and stuff." And I remember coming down the hill, probably October or so. And we didn't know really.
Yeah.
And there's a cherry picker in the middle of the street with the boom extended. And this guy is 30 feet in the air, out of the bucket, streaming lights over the top of the tree. No safety harness, no helper out there, by himself. And I was like, wow, that's a do-it-yourselfer there. It's like, I'm a do-it-yourselfer, but he's a do-it-yourselfer.
Do you guys like the Christmas lights? I'm talking about, the big ones.
Yes.
Oh yeah, of course.
Love them.
What,
Yeah.
tell, what is it?
No, I still, every time, we've been here 17 years.
Yeah.
And still top the hill, coming home at night and just, it's breathtaking.
It
just
is.
coming over the hill and seeing all the lights. And
What do you guys remember about the first time that you saw it? You were pretty little.
I was like 3. I have no idea.
Do you remember seeing them? Do you remember seeing them when you were that little?
No.
Or just that they've always been there?
They've always
What do you think about them?
I like them because shows the brightness in our neighborhood, and I think when people see the lights, it makes people feel welcome.
Oh, I like that.
I think my earliest memory from the lights is when Miss Peggy and Mr. David gave us these light glow stick whistle things, and we were saying Merry Christmas as the cars drove around.
That's fun. And you guys, when you first moved in, you guys are the newest family in the neighborhood, as far as I know. And so when you guys first moved in, you already knew about the lights.
I didn't.
Well, I don't remember. It's funny how we discovered about the lights.
Okay.
Yeah, before we moved here, we had previously looked at a house in Interlaken, which has their own Christmas light situation going on. And so we had discussions about whether we were willing to get into that sort of neighborhood, and ended up not getting a house there, and came to look at a house in this neighborhood. And I think it was after we already had an offer in the house that my mother sent me a text of a video of this neighborhood at Christmas time. She said, "Is this the neighborhood that you guys are moving into?" And I said, "Oh no." We did not have any idea before we moved here that was a part of this neighborhood.
Oh, nice.
And we also moved in the weekend before Thanksgiving. So, they go on the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and we were fresh, 10 days in our house when the lights came on.
So you guys moved in. Do you like the lights?
Oh my gosh. He had just had quintuple bypass surgery in September before we moved in December, so like 3 months before. So we really, he was better, but we didn't have energy to do a lot. So we would go sit in the office, or if it's pretty, go sit on the porch, sit and just look at the lights and watch the cars go by and look at the lights, and it was just so beautiful. It's just like, oh, it's Christmas, whether our house is decorated. Of course, we didn't have any lights on our house, at that time.
Right.
It just the one tree. David said, "Okay, I'll give you a pass this year."
There is a little pressure, isn't there?
There is. That's our special memory, is that very first one when we would just sit in the office and look out at the lights, and it was like being in a fairy tale or something.
You've been neighbors a long time with David and Peggy. So what do you think drives him on this?
That is a really interesting question.
Yeah.
What drives him? I never really wondered that, but now that you mention it, but Oh, I don't know what drives him. What do you think drives him, Bud?
I don't know.
You know, originally...
Supposedly his mother.
Yes, supposedly...
was the reason.
That was initial idea.
She had what?
She had Alzheimer's.
What do you think it is about David that makes him do this each year?
Wow. I guess it's originally just to show tribute to his mom, but I think he just loves it. I think he loves it because he starts like in October.
I know.
And there would be easier ways to pay tribute to your mom if that's your main goal. But
exactly.
I think
cheaper ways too.
Yeah,
I think he spends a lot of money on it.
I think he enjoys the work, and I think he loves it.
Yeah.
He adds to it every year, and he just that must be his thing.
Yeah.
Brings him joy.
Have you ever spoken to David about the meaning of the lights, like past just the...
Sure.
Well, and what did he say?
Because it used to be more of a big deal, Light the Way to a Cure. It was his theme when he started. And he had a big sign out there because he and then eventually Grace Ann were head of the Alzheimer's Association, the Tarrant County Alzheimer's Association. Awesome. And so he wanted the Light the Way to a Cure for Alzheimer's. And we've had friends that have come down who've lost parents and friends to Alzheimer's that just make it a trek now every year. But it was a big deal. And then at one point, I think they opened their home to the Alzheimer's Association group because we'd go over and do violin and, I'd play Christmas songs and the kids would play Christmas music. And
for like a fundraiser type thing.
I think it was just more of a social thank you.
Yeah.
We're thinking of you kind of thing. But it was for the Alzheimer's group. But that's where it started, was the Light the Way to a Cure.
Do you guys have any thoughts about why David does this?
I know.
You do? What do you think?
I want you to say.
You want me to say?
Yeah.
I mean, I've definitely had discussions with David about, what really prompted him and, helping spread awareness for Alzheimer, and, his mother who loved the lights as well. So, I think obviously they're beautiful and it's nice to come and see them. But I think,
it brings us together.
Yeah, it does bring our neighborhood together too, just for our sake. But, kind of the reason behind it is a poster right here.
Yeah.
I really love that. I was looking at the verse he has
I was
out
just
there.
gonna talk about
you guys
that.
are Christians, so tell me what it means to you as far
I
as
was thinking
that.
about that because I was like, okay, I wonder if he's going to ask, what's my favorite part of the
Yes.
lights?
Oh,
And
yeah.
So I was thinking, the first thing that came to mind is, several years ago, he put out the scripture verse from John chapter 1. And I took a picture because I wanted to make sure I read it in the version he had it in. But it says, "In him was life, and the life was the light of all people. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not overcome it. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. From his fullness, we have all received grace upon grace." And I just love that he's pointing to the true light. We live in a very dark world, and it'd be so easy and to just get caught up in just the beauty of the lights. But he's like, this is the reason. This is the reason we do the light. And so I love that. I think that's just a beautiful, just pointing to Jesus, the true light.
Have either of you talked to David and asked him why he does this or anything? He's a pretty quiet guy, huh?
No, yeah, he is.
He's a quiet guy.
He is a very quiet guy, but
Smart
for me,
as all get out, but quiet.
just the sign about his mom and the lights.
Yeah.
I feel like that may not be the only reason, but I can see where that would be the kind of thing that you'd want to do. I mean, after you lose a parent, it's kind of rough.
Yeah, something to honor her.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
No, I think he's just, I don't know, I think he's just, like I say, a perfectionist, and he enjoys doing it, and it's become part of his identity and the fact this is what I do,
Yeah.
No one's ever happy.
I could see that with David. I could see possibly that if you had a bad day and, this we all have distractions. I mean, I'm certain that you do too. I mean, we all have something that we do to, take our mind off our daily struggles. I mean, we all have things we do to escape,
Yes,
I
we
mean,
do.
you've got your backyard with all your plants, and your fire pit back there. I mean, we all have things, we all have things to escape. And that may well be that I would not, if I were to be objective about it, I would say I don't think that's a real conscious thing for him, but it may be subconscious that it's a good distraction. In other words, he has a tough day, lots of angry people, lots of fighting, lots of, ugliness in the personal conflict he has to deal with, and then he can come home and just work on the light.
There's, a lot of people you ask, just like, why does David do that? And they say, because your mom and Alzheimer's, which is obviously part of it, but it sounds like that's another element of it. But the primary reason is you just kind of felt this.
I kind of got this obsession, and I was doing it obviously before my mom had Alzheimer's. My mom really got Alzheimer's bad in the early 90s, and she died in 2000. And I got involved in the Alzheimer's Association in the late 1990s. But in reality, becoming involved with the Alzheimer's Association allowed me to kind of cover for my crazy obsession, because it gave me a valid reason for putting up all these lights.
Well, we did have.
There it is. We have both cameras working.
Yes, we had a fundraiser that one of those early
1998,
years,
I think.
and
We
that's
heard
when
about
they
that,
and that's when they did the light the way to the cure kind of. That was the theme, and we just had an open house here where people could come and see the lights and that kind of thing. And
so every year since then, we've had the sign out.
We had the sign
to
out,
have money for Alzheimer's. Before that, it didn't have a theme. It was just I put up all these lights. This guy's crazy. So, but anyway.
Do you have any idea how much money they've raised from the lights? Does that go to a specific link that
it goes to Fort Worth?
It just
It goes to North.
So you don't know whether it's.
They will sometimes note. We'll get letters and saying somebody donated this or donated that. They obviously don't. Most people don't donate.
Yeah.
They don't donate enough. But I mean, at least it provides something. I would guesstimate that it probably provides $2,500 to $3,000 a year from the lights from people giving based on the sign.
A funny story about the Alzheimer's connection is we have some very good friends we went to college with, and they've lived in Arlington for about the same amount of time as we have. And I was together with her, and she goes, "You aren't going to believe what someone told me at my exercise class." They said, "We went by the most beautiful house last night. It has all these Christmas lights that this man puts up because his wife has Alzheimer's." And my friend said, "What are you talking about? In Arlington Gardens?" And she goes, "Well, that's his mother. I can assure you his wife doesn't have Alzheimer's."
By now, it was obvious that David's work brings a lot of light into this world. But what about this white light rule? I needed to explore this David forcing them into a thing a bit more.
We only were allowed, really, David just sort of put his foot down and said, we'll only have white lights. Nobody had anything but white lights.
I heard that.
No, nothing. But now he's kind of given in on that because the new LED lights, a lot of them are different shades and stuff. And so this year, he's got lots of
I noticed.
colors. I told Bud last night, I looked out our bathroom window and you could just see directly over there. And I said, oh my gosh, David's got lots of different colors. So, he's branching out.
Everybody had white lights, right? There were no colored lights back in the day. And
Apparently that was the
why? Do you know why?
David went with white lights.
That was his rule. That's just
what it
people
was.
That was the rule. We just
Right.
Tom would come around, I guess at night, very early in the morning. I don't know. One morning we were out there and there was one red light bulb. We all had the old screw in.
Yes.
And he had screwed in a red light bulb, just one, in every single house.
I love
So
that.
it was very
right at the front.
Yeah. And I didn't know who did it. Somebody later told me that it was him.
We call our end the colorful corner. That's what we call it because it's where the
Well, Steve told me when I put him out the very first year, he goes, David doesn't like colored lights. I was like, well, you have colored lights.
He goes,
like,
I know.
yeah, I know. And every year, I know he doesn't like them.
He gives me a bad time.
I was like,
did
he ever say
about
no? David, I don't think
He's like,
David's
everybody
ever
does
told
white
me
lights.
that.
Dick Parker told me that.
He probably said it once to somebody.
One time.
One time
20 years ago, and everybody's like, hey,
right.
hold on, he's definitely warmed up to the colored lights
I noticed that.
those snowflakes change color when they just
That's right.
and he's got that Blue River back there.
That's right. I suggested to him the other night, he's now has colored lights because of his grandkids. 'Cause kids will do that to you.
They will.
Kids, right?
Exactly right.
Especially
Grandpa will
grandkids.
put out some colored
Yeah.
lights. So.
Yes.
Bring that up because the very first year we moved in, I was always a colored light person when I grew up. And my dad always used to put them up along the rim of the house. So the very first year or two that we were here, I actually got a 20-foot ladder and put them up along the ridge of our house.
Okay.
Which made me very nervous, but I actually had little hooks up there and ran them up there. And after hanging them on the house for a year or two, I said, I'm not comfortable with that. So then we just put them on the ground. And then,
That's
but
where
yeah,
I'm at right
it was
now.
kind of a friendly jab every year. He'd give me grief for doing colored lights.
Yeah.
And I'd say, well, sorry, we're just the rebels, you know.
Trey, what about, is there, I've heard rumor, although we don't know who it is. So I don't know, I have my guesses that they might not be alive anymore, but I heard rumor that there was one that said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing lights. Did you ever hear
Tom?
that? That's right.
That's the rumor
Tom?
is that it's Tom. That
I
it was
think it
Tom
was.
who was like, it's
No.
not happening.
Did he say no, he's not going to do lights? I know
He
Janice does
said,
lights.
he was just going to put a sign that said ditto. He was going to do
That sounds like
Well, before I started doing lights in his yard, I think the only thing they did was like put some lights around the reef on their front porch.
Yes, I heard.
I think that was about it.
Yes.
So the neighbors love the lights and it brings a lot of joy. But wanted to explore Peggy's thoughts about all this a little bit more.
I will say this, that
There's
people
options.
all the time, you know, you'll meet someone, they'll go, now, where do you live? And I'm like, oh, down Harder Lane by Key Elementary. Do you live by that house with all the Christmas lights? And I go, I am the house.
Have you ever talked to Peggy about the lights and how she feels about the lights?
Well, she's not as excited as the rest of us are. But she's tolerant. I mean, she's got to be.
Yes.
This is a big deal.
She says David doesn't play golf, so this is his activity.
This is his activity.
I think she might even say it's like it'd be cheaper if he played golf.
Absolutely, it would be cheaper if he played golf.
She doesn't.
I know she doesn't.
And you know, she's stood her ground all these years, and I don't know, it's just David's thing, and that's what she says.
About, I guess maybe 4 years ago, Peggy said she'd been asking David to redo some stuff in the house, and he would just dragging his feet. And so she said one day, she said, well, we're going to redo our bathroom and all this stuff. She said, we went to meet with our financial advisor, and she said, I saw how much money he spends on the lights. And she said, I'll never do anything but fly first class, and we're redoing the house.
That's fantastic.
Good for you, Peggy.
Yeah. When the lights are all up, I think they're beautiful.
Yeah.
My only, and you, David knows this, it's all consuming. So it's even a stretch for us to go out to dinner once the lights are on, because he can't leave them, because, you know, if they go off, there's no one here to monitor them constantly. I mean, they have to be monitored
I know,
constantly.
I called him on it because I know how much he cares
Yeah.
about it.
That's right.
So we
It's
went
so
to
special.
a basketball game in Waco on Friday night.
Ooh,
It
that's
was
a
the
long
last
ways.
basketball game at the old arena, so we wanted to be
Oh,
there.
that's awesome.
We spent the night, and my brother-in-law and my nephew stayed in our house the entire time with pictures of all of the electrical, you know, the breakers, and got instructions on how to keep the lights on, and they stayed in our house, so we can't leave the house. So that is
So you have to have a
little bit-
babysitter for them.
Yeah, and you know,
guys
like
want.
I would, you know, I'm like, I'd sure like to go to New York during Christmas, but I know that's not ever going to happen. You know, it's just not going to happen. So
We could leave the house, but I mean, it just is frightening to me that all these people would show up to look at the lights, and the main breaker would trip, and it'd be all 2/3 of the lights would be out, and I'd just feel terrible about that.
yeah, I mean, I, you know, we've had some arguments about it. Like, you know, I want to get new cabinets in the laundry room, but like, you know, Peg, here's how much you can spend on that remodel, and then I'm like,
I don't think I've never put
no,
any
you put a
amount-
limit on me. You gave me the limit, and then I finally said, screw it. I mean, there are some tension about that.
It
It's just
is
a
a
lot
hobby.
of time. It's just a lot of time out there.
Yeah.
And
I think it was Katie that said that like she was having her birthday party and her friends were like, "Why is your dad out there doing the Christmas lights?" When's her birthday?
Halloween.
It's Halloween. Yeah, it's Halloween. And they're like, "Why is your dad out there doing
Christmas lights at
Halloween?"
Well, you know,
Oh, you have no idea.
if the electricians are here in the day and David has a helper,
Right.
you know, and I'm up usually during that time of when everything's really going crazy. I'm grading papers or something. So if like I'm up at 8:30 drinking coffee, grading papers in my bathroom, and then suddenly people are walking around the den, I feel like I have no privacy.
Okay, so Peggy loves the lights, but clearly has a few issues. And it is true that once the lights are turned on, there is a steady stream of cars in the neighborhood for weeks. So do the neighbors have any complaints?
Okay, do you have any like complaints about the lights?
No.
None?
No.
Like the traffic, because it's a little... No.
It's not that bad, I don't think. I don't think it's ever been bad here. I mean, we can always come into our driveway and go out. And
Yeah.
I love it. I love that people know that our neighborhood is the lights neighborhood and come by and
Me too.
they'll honk or something. So no, I don't have any complaints at all. I love it.
I don't think there are any negatives to it at this point. I think that beginning my career as putting up lights, it was a new frontier. It was something that I've never put up hundreds of Christmas lights in my life.
It's always super fun because he always tells us, and we're outside for like hours, like when we're putting up zip ties and like chicken wire on the fence because Archie was too small to fit. I mean, he was small enough to fit through the fence.
Yeah, the experience has made the lights easier. The kids getting older has made the lights easier.
Family activity.
Those are definitely they've turned into more positives than I think they were early on.
More challenging.
Yeah. And I know, thinking of friends our age with young kids that don't know a lot of families in their neighborhood. I mean, I do think because everyone's out around the same amount of time putting their lights up too. Like, we do get, I mean, it's another chance to kind of connect and see everybody.
Yeah. So does the traffic ever bother you?
Oh, no.
Okay.
Nothing,
it doesn't bother me.
Nothing about it bothers us. Well, the only thing is that people I think are kind of rude. They get out of their cars and they stomp on
all over the grass.
Yeah,
it's
and
amazing.
So this
I know.
year we had them put the lights back about a foot from the edge.
Because they'll break them, knock them down, and take pictures. I've seen them doing it.
Yeah, and
just stand in your yard and get the good view.
We get the good view, and it used to bother me terribly what people were going and doing over there, and so I'd go and just saunter over and say, maybe think about somebody else.
Your neighbor.
Feeling like I do not put out enough lights.
You're not the only one who said that.
I feel so inadequate. Forever we thought we should have a big sign pointing to David that says ditto, but
we know, we're sorry. It's not
you might see that next year on us.
We do what we can, but we just don't want to be the darkest house on the street.
Yes.
So we tried to put out some
We fully understand the only reason people drive past our house is because they have to turn around.
They have to turn around somewhere, all right? So it's a cul-de-sac. They can easily easy to turn around.
I think when we used to go by it, and still I go by it, and I think we didn't need to do a whole lot because nobody's looking at our house. When they come back around the cul-de-sac, they were looking that way. Now they're looking this way.
Again.
So I doubt seriously that they really pay a lot of attention to ours. But David pays attention.
Because when he looks out his windows, he sees your house. So he wants to see some lights.
Exactly.
When it gets busy coming through, does that bother you?
No.
We have great neighbors. Like nobody is bothered by the cars. I actually love it. Like they're coming to our neighborhood.
There were a couple years when the kids were little that they set up a hot chocolate stand out there.
Your kids?
Our kids. They only did it a couple years and for a couple nights. It wasn't.
Our granddaughter, who you spoke to, Madeline, talked about her cookies.
Yes.
And she makes the most wonderful from scratch cookies that you'd ever. I will ask her to make some for you.
I think she had about $800.
It appears that Christie's kids weren't the only ones getting in on the act, and that many of the neighborhood kids and grandkids had set up stands over the years.
But I remember one year we were like out here and we had like a hot cocoa stand for the people driving by.
Yeah.
And I had just gotten like a giant lava lamp, so I'd take the top off the lava lamp because it was warm, and I'd bring it out so they could like warm up their hands while they were out here.
Hi.
Yeah.
Who are you?
My name is Maddie Brock. My grandparents live across the street.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit. I heard you did a project and raised a whole lot of money for Alzheimer's.
So a couple years ago, we came out and got cookies and hot chocolate, and on Christmas Eve, we set it all up and sold the cookies and hot chocolate to everyone coming by because it's absolutely packed on Christmas Eve. And there was a lot of people who just gave money, a lot of people who stopped to talk. My grandfather loved to tell stories about Alzheimer's, like what it meant to him to raise money and like everyone around here. And so we raised probably $700 or $800, I
That's
think.
awesome. So let me ask you, how long have you been coming and seeing these lights?
16 years since I was born.
So your whole life, huh?
Whole life.
That's
Pretty much
awesome.
have lived here.
And this is your grandma.
This is my grandma.
Yeah,
This is
get
Gigi.
a good shot. That's amazing.
I've
Well,
had to set up more lights than possibly could count.
yeah, I bet. That's awesome. Well, thanks for talking to me.
Of course.
But it was fun, because you had all that traffic and selling hot chocolate, and the little bit of money they made, they gave to the Alzheimer's Association. It wasn't a whole lot, but.
And it has taken on a life of its own. And what's funny, I've noticed with me, it's become a reference point.
Yeah.
So I'll be speaking with somebody and they'll say, "Oh, you live in Dalworthington, whereabouts?" And I'll say, "Well, do you know the guy that does all the Christmas lights? I'm 3 doors down from him." They're, "Oh, yeah, okay, on that street."
Our good friends Courtney, her and Josh came over right after we bought the house. She's like, "Oh,
You didn't tell me
this is the house." And she's gone her entire life.
In the Christmas lights neighborhood. I've been coming here for forever.
She's
And
like
we're
30 years. I think my parents used to drag us through. And then
She's like, "You don't know about the lights?" And we're like, "No." She's like, "Huh, what?"
Seriously, when we first bought the house,
Yes.
you were the first person, like one of the first persons we told, and you were like, "That's the Christmas tree house."
I love that house so much. We've literally gone there since I was like 9 to go look at Christmas lights. Yes. That was the neighborhood that we would go to. I love that house, and it's gotten bigger and better ever since. And now I take my kids there every year.
Yeah, we drive by there.
I love that house.
That's amazing.
It's magical.
That is perfect.
Every time we take the girls looking at Christmas lights, we go to Interlaken,
Yes.
and then we swing by Alzheimer's because we have to see.
Because we have to see the
Coolest house. Yeah, that's amazing.
It's amazing.
That's awesome.
So it turns out the neighbors didn't have any real complaints, and in fact, seemed to adore everything about the lights. But what did they think about David as a neighbor?
Oh, well, what kind of neighbor is David? Aside from the Christmas light madness, what kind of neighbor is he?
I think he's great. He's got a really good, he's quiet, but he's got a great sense of humor. I mean, he's just, and he's just friendly, and anything you ask him, he'll help you with if you need anything like the lights.
Right.
Both Peggy and him are just outgoing and friendly and open, and they're always having
But
parties.
Peggy's not quiet.
No, Peggy's not quiet. No.
She's
They
awesome.
balance each other out, I guess.
In your words, you're friends with David. You've known him since 2008. Tell me a little bit about him.
Well, David, as has been pointed out, David can be a quiet person, but once you get to know him and he opens up a little bit, you realize what a unique personality he has, what a unique person he is, and he's kind, he's generous. He's a great neighbor, and we are blessed and delighted to have him here.
We're here talking about the Christmas lights, but I'm starting to figure out that David and Peggy are much more of this neighborhood than just putting up Christmas lights. They're kind of like the epicenter of this.
They're the impresarios of our neighborhood. I mean, they set up and arrange and organize things in the neighborhood for us to do like their pickleball nights over on the tennis courts, and just lots of different things. They keep the neighborhood involved and keep us all connected. And they're really intentional, I think, about doing that. As like when you talked to Karen, and it was so impressive for us, and what a spectacle it was when the first Christmas we moved in here. We moved in here in mid-December, and not realizing what we were getting into. And my office here with these window spaces right out across there to see all the lights that David's put up. And I was still writing columns at the time for the Star-Telegram, and it was very distracting for me to try to sit here and work when I would rather just gaze out the window out here. So it was spectacular, and David has been so gracious. He wants the whole neighborhood to look great, not just his place. And so that's why he gets the cherry picker. He puts the lights up in his trees. He goes around to the different houses that also have tall trees like we do, and asks if we would like to do that, and kind of encourages you. Kind of feel a little pressure. That's okay. And he comes every year and puts. We just did that this afternoon. He put the lights up, and it's up to me now to supply the power and get them turned on. But it's just a special mission in life for him. He gets more out of it than any of us realize, I think.
That's something else too. I mean, that's how you can tell he's really a good man. I mean, you go and put out 500,000 of your lights, and then you do about half the houses in the neighborhood in addition. Anybody else that would want his help doing it. It's like, I can hardly get my 3 strands of lights out.
I'm with
Much
you.
less.
It's a lot of pressure. I try to.
Well, the lights are all well and good, but David is a good man, not because of his Christmas lights. He's a man of faith. He's a good husband, a good father, a good grandfather, and he's a good attorney. He's helped me out on a number of occasions, and he's a great neighbor, and I really appreciate being able to live next to him.
But no, there's nothing wrong with him. I admire him. I think I could see where it would be easy to go over the edge. I mean, I have a lot of respect for him getting up there, because he'll do it in the cold. I mean, when he sets his schedule, I mean, he's going to do it. He gets up there, wind, cold, rain, whatever. Not a competition. Nobody. I don't think I'm not competing with him. I don't think he's competing with anybody else. I think mentally he might be competing with some other neighborhoods. Some of the other neighborhoods with the lights, I think he takes great pride in having a lot of cars come into our neighborhood. And
I've never known anybody as tenacious or as dedicated to a project.
One of the neighborhood's most magical evenings each year is switching on the lights the first Sunday evening after Thanksgiving. The neighbors, favorite beverages in hand, slowly begin to gather at David's corner as the sun sinks into the sky. David hurriedly putting on the finishing touches of his masterpiece. Hello. Hi. Are you excited? Whoa! Wow. Once lit, the neighbors toast and celebrate with a stroll through the neighborhood. Wow.
Just that. There we go. Got it. Thank you.
Honestly, it's hard not to get overly emotional about the lights, what the neighbors mean to this neighborhood, and the impact that David and Peggy have on it.
Oh, should have won that game last night. Did you watch it?
Hey, you guys, your lights, that's mine. That's fine. Your lights are magical, but you guys are magical. Like, what you do for this neighborhood's incredible. Serious.
We love
It's
our
incredible.
neighborhood.
I think you love your neighbors.
We do.
You do.
We love them.
Well, it's a great example to all of us. Love you guys. It's hard not to when you drive into the light and you come and you start,
you start seeing the lights up high and come down in our neighborhood. It's just so magical. And I think it's pretty amazing. You know, you brought up the people that we've lost in the neighborhood, and several of the older people when we've interviewed them said, talking about the neighborhood, like it'll be really hard to lose this neighborhood.
On the rare occasion when we think, well, we're getting older, maybe we should get downsized even more than we did when we moved here, and we think about leaving this neighborhood, then we get sick to our stomach. We don't want to. That will always be, if we ever do that, if we ever have to, get some assisted living somewhere or something like that. The idea of leaving this neighborhood and these neighbors and the close-knit community we have here, it's just something I don't want to contemplate.
Yeah.
Like this means that the community and the lights, I think, are they represent that each year, the closeness of the neighborhood, the light, and you guys. I mean, I think how much people love you. And like
That's probably why they put up with the lights.
I know. It's just like you to make a joke about it. People love and respect you guys, and you make a difference in your neighborhood.
That's sweet.
And you're the first people. I mean, anytime someone's sick or needs food, or if in a world where a lot of people wear the name of Jesus on their sleeve and don't seem to act like it, you guys are actually, at least in my narrow interpretation of the scriptures, actually live it, and that's beautiful.
Thanks, it's very nice.
And I think these lights I think that's just part of you. Like, you want to bring light to the world. And it was so interesting because Jordan, and I don't have it, but when he told it, it was just so beautiful, and I don't know if he'll be able to recapture it. But he talked about how maybe you go to work and you work in all that darkness, and it's just hard what you do, and this is a way that you can shine your light, and maybe even therapy, to get out there and let the light shine out to the world.
Yeah.
Because of that, the hard job.
Well, it's nice that he would say that. But yeah, it is therapy because, doing the family law practice, I get to see a lot of good people at their worst times. Yeah. And I have to deal with a lot of controversy and a lot of anger with clients and attorneys and so on. And so this gives me an opportunity to bring joy and happiness to all people from, 1 year old to 99 years old. And now I hear even pets.
Exactly.
But anyway,
dogs and cats.
I can listen to music. I can be relaxed. Nobody's bothering me, and drink a beer and have a great time putting up lights. And I enjoy being outside.
Yeah, and every Christmas you begin to think about the people that you've taken that wine walk with, the people who've met at the corner, and we've lost 4 neighbors who are very, very close to us, and it's just
Who are they?
Well,
all the lights.
The McCartys, yeah.
Yeah, the McCartys.
And they were basically died within a year of one another.
Yeah, right after we moved in.
Yeah. And then Tom, of course, was just, such a blow. Everyone loved Tom. And then Grace Ann, who loved the Christmas lights and loved being around everybody.
And unfortunately, the neighborhood recently lost our friend Bud Smith as well.
So it's a melancholy kind of thing when you think about the people who've enjoyed it. And then even Tom enjoyed it, even though he acted cantankerous about it.
The lights are a magical part of the holiday season. But as everyone knows, each season has a natural end, whether we want it to or not.
And we always hate it when the season is over after January 1st and the neighborhood goes dark. And that's always lets us know that we're right in the middle of deep winter now.
The worst day of the year is January the 2nd when we unplug all the lights. It's completely dark outside, and it's just almost depressing when all the lights are gone.
Taking one look at David Cooley's Christmas lights leads to one inescapable conclusion. What started out as a simple act of putting up Christmas lights at a first home, like a lot of folks do each year, turned into an obsession. Did he do it to raise money for Alzheimer's? Or to honor his mother? Did he do it as a sort of therapy to recover from a long day at work helping his clients? Did he do it out of love to bring pleasure to thousands of people who drive by each year? Yeah, in part, each of these played a role. But regardless of his motivations, David's obsession brings joy to many each year. And at the center of that project is a man who found fulfillment in the tedious process and the resulting joy his labor brings. Indeed, David's work brings smiles, laughter, and joy. In a time of uncertainty, division, and darkness, David's simple act not only serves to flood this little corner of Texas with light, but with laughter and love, all the while chasing away a bit of the darkness that plagues us all.